Chapter 33, Section 1. So by the 1700s, you're going to see a lot of new ideas about science in the Western world. This led to new forms of power, led to new ways to make goods. There's going to be so much change to industry that this time period is going to be called the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution changes everything. It's going to be this shift from animal power to human power to machine power. Society is going to become less agricultural based and more industrial based. Great Britain is going to take the lead really early on, and then others will rise to challenge them. Okay, so you see a lot of it start in Britain and then spread. The scientific revolution, changes in scientific thinking is going to actually help cause the Industrial Revolution. So if we go back to the 1400s, scientists started changing the way they thought. They're going to use that scientific method, where they form and test their hypotheses. So this period becomes known as the scientific revolution. They're changing the way they're thinking. Nicholas Copernicus was a Polish astronomer, and he's actually one of the first to use the scientific method. He studied the motion of planets, and he's going to prove Ptolemy wrong. Ptolemy, from years and years and years before this, had said that the Earth was the center of the universe. And Copernicus challenges that. In 1543, he publishes a book, and he explained the idea that the planets revolve around the sun, not the Earth. And this book begins to completely change. It was completely change the way scientific thinking happened about the planets and the Earth and the solar system. Galileo Galilei was an Italian astronomer, and he invented something called the telescope. And he begins studying the stars and the planets. And one thing he learned by using his telescope is the moon's surface wasn't smooth. It was actually, there were mountains and craters. He also notices that the Milky Way holds a lot of stars. And the sun rotates on its axis. The Roman Catholic Church very much criticized Galileo. The idea that the earth revolves around the sun. The Catholic Church says we were the center of everything. The earth was. But his ideas spread. He dies in 1642. Another scientist that changes everything is going to be Sir Isaac Newton. He explains the theory of gravitation. He explained how objects move through space. Newton, his technology, or his ideas are going to allow for the technology that makes rockets and satellites work. Without his theories, rockets and satellites wouldn't work. And you're going to start seeing organizations form in Great Britain and France, so scientists can discuss their ideas. Scientific information is going to spread quickly. The use of the scientific method is going to spread as well. And so let's jump as well into section 2 of chapter 33 and talk about another revolution that's occurring, the agricultural revolution, because there's going to be a lot of new developments in farming, okay, which helps set the stage for this industrial revolution. By the 1700s, you're starting to see enclosure being used in Great Britain, this system of land division. Landowners combined small strips of land worked by tenant farmers into large areas of land. Remember, we talked before about how the land was divided into strips, and they combined them together into these large areas, and they would enclose it by fences or hedges or ditches, something. Landowners found they could make more money. You could have whole areas grow the same crop, which means you had larger harvests, which meant you had greater profits, and you didn't quite need as many workers. Tenant farmers had two choices. So either they could stay on as paid workers in this new enclosure system, or they could go look for jobs somewhere else. Many of them leave, and they go find work in the cities. Many become industrial workers in these industries that are getting ready to form. There's also going to be new ways that they start growing their crops, new ways that they're breeding their animals, which leads to greater food production, which leads to better health, which leads to a longer lifespan, which means population is going up, which means the demand for manufactured goods starts to grow, setting the stage for this industrial revolution.